If you dig the twisted, admire the outlandish, and are enamored by the unusual, you're in the right place. True crime, the supernatural, the unexplained, now you're speaking our language. If you agree, join us as we dive into the darker side. You know, because it's more fun over here. Welcome to Total Conundrum.
Warning, some listeners may find the following content disturbing. Listener discretion is advised. Ha 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 ha.
Hey there, lovely listeners. Welcome back to another thrilling episode of Total Conundrum. I'm your co-host, Traci, the girl who knows that the only thing scarier than a dark room is running out of snacks while binge-watching horror movies.
And I'm Jeremy, the fearless one, who's been known to investigate things that go bump in the night, armed with only a flashlight and a microphone.
You are fearless, Jeremy. And today, we've got an intriguing episode lined up for you all. I'm bringing you the crazy story of David Stewart, a tale that'll make you question people themselves.
You bet, Traci. David Stewart's story is a mind-bending journey into the unknown, filled with twists, turns, and a few things that will make your blood boil. Stick around, folks, because you won't want to miss this one.
But before we dive in, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Hit that notification bell so you never miss an episode. And don't forget to give us a thumbs up if you enjoyed this episode.
That's right, Traci. Also, a rating and review would mean the world to us if you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Plus, drop us a line if you got any spooky stories or a chilling mystery you want us to dive into. We'd love to hear from you.
In the last few podcasts, we discussed collaborating with a few different podcasts and how we'll be sharing their amazing trailers with all of you in future episodes. So make sure you continue to show them some love as well.
Before we shock you with our episode of Don't Pick Up the Phone, we'll be playing a couple of trailers that were shared with us. Couple of Couples podcast and Flirting with 40 podcast. Thank you, Johnny, Daryl, Drips, Drops, and the two Sarahs with an H for collaborating with us. Everyone, go check out their podcasts and show them the love and support that you show us. We have binged both, and they are great.
Welcome to a world of love, friendship, laughter, and everything in between. Get ready for the Couple of Couples podcast, the ultimate podcast about life, hosted by a fantastic foursome. We've got not one, but two couples ready to discuss a wide variety of topics, interests, and current events. Join us as we take you on an often hilarious and rarely heartfelt journey through the ups and downs of life. Regardless of your walk of life, there's something for everyone on this podcast. Meet Daryl, Drips, Johnny, and Drops.
Hi, I'm Daryl. I'm a professional nerd, avid gamer, and the self-proclaimed podfather.
I'm Drips, also known as D-Rips, and also not the most articulate.
I'm Drops, listening to find out if I am being held against my will.
And I'm Johnny. I'm willing to do and try most things, and I'm willing to say, well, anything.
Each episode, these four fabulous friends will tackle topics like forming friendships, weird science, Delta gummies, origin stories, ear-biting lorikeets, juicy man booties, conspiracies, aliens, ghosts, pop culture, TV, music, and more. And the best part? That was only the first 9 episodes. Let us take you on a journey through the highs and lows of what it means to be alive with witty banter, non-expert advice, and hilarious stories that'll have you in stitches.
If you're looking for the next great podcast, then grab your phone, tablet, or laptop and subscribe to the Couple of Couples podcast on your favorite platform today. It's free, and it's the best way to make sure you never miss an episode. Don't miss out on the laughs, the love, the occasional, did they really just say that? Moment, and some jaw-dropping surprises you won't want to miss.
And speaking of love, let's spread it like confetti. Like, follow, and share our podcast on social media. And don't forget to visit our website at www.coupleofcouplespodcast.com to find links to our show on your favorite platform, links to our social media accounts, contact us, or listen to the latest episodes directly from our website.
Join us on this roller coaster ride as we dip, dive, twist, and turn through everything that the universe throws our way. And don't forget to check out our merchandise store, which can be accessed through our website at www.coupleofcouplespodcast.com, featuring custom designs based on our sound bites from your favorite episodes. Shirts, hoodies, mugs, tote bags, and more.
Couple of Couples Podcast. Because when it comes to love and laughter, 4 heads are better than 1. But a dose of laughter, love, and a little bit of craziness? Subscribe now and be part of our fantastic podcast family. Subscribe, like, follow, and share. Let's make love and laughter go viral.
Hi, I'm Sarah.
And I'm Sarah.
And this is
Flirtin' with 40.
A podcast.
A podcast about turning 40.
Yes. So, Sarah.
Yes, Sarah.
I'm Sarah, and you're Sarah.
And we're both Sarahs with H.
Yes, we
both
are.
from the Dallas area.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
DFW.
True. Facts. And we are both and have turned 40 this year.
Correct. I turned 40 just recently, a few weeks ago. Mm-hmm. And you're turning 40
in December.
So sit tight, grab your favorite stress ball, you might need it, and get ready to ride into this crazy story with Total Conundrum. So, Jeremy, how are you today?
I'm good, Tracy.
Good. So we have talked about how we always do this haunted house walkthrough, deck out our yard. We're a couple weeks behind, but we finally broke out the Halloween stuff.
Hoo-yah.
And we have our work cut out for us. OMG.
Lots of work.
We're adding more to the haunted walkthrough this year. It is going to be crazy. So if anybody's in Minnesota, you should come and check it out.
Be a good time.
It definitely would.
Every weekend up to Halloween.
Yeah, if we can get it done. There's so much work to be done.
We'll get her done.
Yes, we always do. The other thing that we did recently is we did take a trip to Duluth. We went and revisited the cemetery.
Greenwood.
Cemetery. I
Yep.
always want to say Green Lawn. The Poor Farm Cemetery. Jeremy got a drone, but he wasn't able to fly it because it was a no-fly zone there.
I did fly it today, though.
What happened?
I crashed into a tree.
Oops.
So I got like 6 minutes of video on this $400 drone that I'll never get to fly again.
We'll get it fixed. It's not a big deal. Hopefully.
Hopefully.
I know they have repairs and stuff like that, but the video you did capture
Was phenomenal.
was phenomenal. It's a great drone. But when we were in Duluth, we also went to Enger's Tower, and then we went down to the ship. I can't remember the name of it right now.
William something.
Is it the Liz? Well, it's the ship that they have down on Canal Park, and I think it's every weekend in October, they do a haunted walkthrough, and I think they like set up animatronics, kind of do the same thing that we do in our backyard, but
Very cool.
yeah, but unfortunately we were there a couple weeks too early to experience that. So,
Yeah.
But anyway, after just giving you a little small talk before I get into this story, Jeremy.
Insider news,
definitely. Jeremy is going to hate me again because it is another dark story.
I quit this podcast.
No, you can't. I can't do it without you. But I am working on a very fun supernatural story that's going to be coming up. And we will be doing a couple crossover episodes in November. More details to come on that. But sounds like we're going to be doing a crossover with One Nothing podcast and Haunts cast for sure. And then we might have a couple others in the works. That's a little nerve-wracking. I'm a little nervous.
Ooh, spooky.
Never done a crossover, so it's exciting, but
I'm going to have
it's
to get my Ghostbuster costume out for the
the Haunts cast.
Yeah.
She tells some amazing haunted stories. And 1-0, she's more up my line. She does a lot of these twisted stories that not a lot of podcasts do, but she also does a lot of like animal attacks and stuff. It's an incredible podcast. Anyway, I'm going to give a little disclaimer before I get into this. If you are sensitive to sexual assault, this may not be the episode for you.
Okay, I'll see you later.
No, you can't leave. You are stuck with me. I'm sorry.
What?
Again, this is a story that needs to be told. It is a mind-blowing story. I tried to make it as easy to listen to as possible. There's some details that definitely I didn't include, so.
I won't do it.
You won't do it. You can't scare me out of here.
Not gonna do it.
You have to. You're my co-host. You're my partner in crime. You're my husband.
Well, we'll see.
All right. So let's get into it. Oh, and then the other thing I'm going to say, Buddy Stump is one of the lead detectives on this case.
Yeah. Did he
And-
lose the stump?
No. But I freaking love
Hey,
this
buddy,
guy.
how's your stump doing?
I'm sure he's heard it all. He is a true Southern guy.
Can we call him Stumpy?
But his dialect, the way that he says things, he is my hero in this story for more reasons than one. But
Because of his accent?
I love the Southern accent, but the way he says things and just the Southern drawl and the way that he says it, you'll see as we go on. He's amazing. I love
Mama
this guy.
said life is like a box of Stumpies. You never know what Stumpy you're going to get.
Don't pick on my buddy. He's amazing.
Roger Walco.
This is a documentary on Netflix that I came across. It's called Don't Pick Up the Phone.
Stumpy's Revenge.
Well, it is kind of Stumpy's revenge because he tries to go after this guy. So, and he goes hard. He goes really hard.
Hardcore, huh?
Hardcore. Buddy Stump, now retired as a detective.
Sorry. You can't say that name without laughing. Come on.
He is a hero. You can't laugh at him.
Sure, he'd appreciate it, maybe.
He probably would. He'd probably laugh right along with you. Now retired as a detective, recalls receiving a phone call urgently requesting his assistance with a baffling incident that had unfolded at a local McDonald's. The date was April 19th, 2004. Buddy had only been promoted to detective 3 weeks prior, making him a newcomer to the department.
He's a greenhorn.
He is a greenhorn. Responding to the call, he arrived at the McDonald's location. His curiosity piqued, but his understanding was limited. The scene was a flurry of activity with police cars scattered around and a continuous flow of people coming and going. Despite the chaos, the restaurant was still open and operational, serving customers as usual. Navigating through the bustling environment, Buddy found himself in the kitchen area in the back hallway. He vividly recalls the sense of pandemonium that flooded the atmosphere, describing the scene as people rushed about, their movements frantic. Emotions ran high, evident in those present with worried expressions and hurried gestures. As he ventured further, he encountered the victim in the back office. Her demeanor was visibly distressed, her head hung low in a somber display. The manager and assistant manager were beside her, both displaying signs of agitation. Buddy recounts the experience as similar as being caught in a whirlwind, unsure of the circumstances that led to his involvement. Amidst the confusion, Buddy questioned the situation he'd been thrust into. He recalls the thought passing through his mind, what kind of situation have they roped me into? Amongst the chaos, the individuals on the scene attempted to explain the events that had transpired, but their only explanations were fragmented and perplexing. One aspect became clear to Buddy in the jumble of information. The incident resolved around a phone call, though the precise details remained hazy. Buddy was informed by one of the officers present that a crucial piece of evidence existed, a video capturing the entire incident on a CCTV camera. Recognizing the significance of this footage, Buddy promptly told everyone to stop right there. Enough talking about it. We've beat this horse to death.
And get me a Stumpy burger, too.
Be nice to my buddy.
He's the only sign of comedic relief here.
He is a hero, though. He is.
Okay. Well, I'll worship him after I make fun of him.
Okay. With that, he reviewed the video, which has no sound. A series of scenes played out before him as he watched the footage. Donna Summers, the 51-year-old assistant manager, stood at the center of the unfolding events. Occupied in her responsibilities during her shift at McDonald's that night, Donna received an incoming call. The caller introduced himself as a police officer, asserting his affiliation with the Mount Washington Police approximately a mile from the restaurant. He claimed that the restaurant's manager and the corporate representative also joined him on the line. The tone grew somber as he conveyed the gravity of the situation at hand. According to the caller, an employee had been accused of stealing a wallet from a customer on the premises. He described the alleged culprit as a petite brunette. Seeking Donna's confirmation, unfazed, Donna responded with unwavering certainty, acknowledging that she knew what individual he was talking about. Yes, she said, we do have someone matching that description, and I know precisely who you're referring to. The young woman, identified as the potential suspect, entered the room in the video footage. The interaction between Donna and the employee unfolded visibly, captured by the cameras as they talked back and forth. Louise Ogborn is an 18-year-old working at McDonald's to support her family due to her mother's recent job loss and health issues. The restaurant was bustling that day, and Louise volunteered to stay late and assist during the dinner rush. Louise was accused of stealing the money from the customer's purse. She was distraught by the allegation and found it hard to believe that anyone could accuse her of such a terrible act. The police officer who was on the phone with Donna Summers proposed two options. Either they could arrest Louise at the restaurant, or Donna could assist them by conducting a strip search to check if the money was on Louise.
Well, that sounds legal.
Right there, questions. All sorts of questions, all sorts of red flags. So Donna then requested Louise to empty her pockets. Despite her reluctance, Louise complied, revealing the contents of her pockets and turning them inside out. Another assistant manager joined them, and they covered the office window with a garbage bag to ensure her privacy. Well, at least they did that. Understanding Donna's mindset at that moment is difficult. While people might assert that they would never comply with a caller's request for a strip search, the caller seemed incredibly convincing. He maintained a calm demeanor and issued orders with authority, causing Donna to comply. Even Louise, though reluctant, complied while repeatedly protesting her innocence. She likely hoped that they would eventually realize her innocence and release her from the situation.
I think Donna's a little dumb.
Yeah, I'm sorry. If I got that phone call, I would say, I want nothing to do with this. Send your officers down.
Yeah, come and get her.
Yeah,
That ain't my job.
My hands are washed of this situation. It is insane. As Buddy continued watching the CCTV footage, he was astounded. He witnessed piece after piece of clothing being removed, leaving Louise in her underwear and bra. Then, even those were removed, leaving her completely naked. Buddy recalled his astonishment, thinking, we're at a McDonald's office with a naked woman. I mean, what the hell is going to happen next? Around this time, approximately an hour had passed since the phone call began. Donna provided Louise with an apron to shield her naked body as best as possible. Subsequently, they started packing Louise's clothing and personal belongings, removing them from the room. Following the officer's instructions, they retrieved her car keys and placed her belongings in her vehicle. This left Louise in a predicament. She had no viable means of removing herself from the situation except for the prospect of running through a restaurant filled with people, all but having nothing but a tiny apron to cover herself.
And I mean, at this point, where else does she have to hide something?
Right. So, unfortunately, it gets worse. The potential existence of someone awaiting her beyond the door was also unknown to her. Consequently, her sole recourse was to remain within the confines of the office and adhere to the instructions. Louise's upbringing included a childhood in a military household, an environment that ingrained obedience to her. This upbringing conditioned her to comply promptly with directions her parents or other adults issued. The values of respecting elders and adhering to authoritative guidance were deeply instilled in her, which I understand that, but somebody should have instilled, this is not okay, this is your body, this poor girl. Next, an unidentified man enters the office. Lacking a name tag, apron, or uniform, he doesn't exhibit the appearance of a McDonald's staff member. His presence raises questions. Why is an unfamiliar person in the office? By this point, the situation had persisted for hours, putting a considerable strain on Donna, who was concurrently managing the bustling restaurant. Each time she inquired about the delay of the police arriving, the man's response consisted of assurances that help was en route, but the process was delayed due to a shortage of personnel that day. His plea was for her to exercise patience. Simultaneously juggling her restaurant duties and this distressing situation, Donna expressed her need to return to work. In response, the caller suggested enlisting a trustworthy man to remain with her until their arrival. Considering this, Donna mentioned her fiancé, Walter Nix, as a potential candidate to fulfill this role. Walter Nix is now conversing with the caller over the phone, alone in the room with Louise. I mean, how does anybody think this is okay?
I'm not sure.
The voice on the other end instructs Walter to have Louise remove the apron and perform physical activities like jumping jacks, running in place, and shaking to reveal any concealed items potentially. Donna occasionally checks in on Louise. During these visits, Louise is consistently covered. Assuming that her fiancé is merely on the line listening to the caller's instructions, she remains oblivious that Walter is actively engaging in the requested actions of the police officer. While a moment is captured on the video where Louise is not wearing her apron during one of Donna's brief entrances, it is uncertain whether Donna notices this change, as her visit was very swift and she seemed very distracted. Louise's sense of isolation intensified as time passed, leaving her without any assistance. She was occasionally forced to talk with a caller on the phone with strict orders to respond with yes, sir, or no, sir, while addressing his inquiries and commands. Failure to comply with his specific demands would result in punishment, leaving Louise in absolute terror. Buddy mentioned that Walter Nix held a reputable standing within the local community. He was regarded as a person of integrity, attending church regularly, and actively participating as a little league coach, frequently interacting with children. His trustworthy nature earned the confidence of people around him, including Donna, who was planning on marrying him. However, when faced with a situation that significantly deviated from his usual environment, where he conversed with this caller, every aspect of his moral compass seemed to falter. The profound impact of this interaction caused him to act in a way that contrasted dramatically with his established character. The situation escalated alarmingly as the video progressed. The distressing scenes unfolded, revealing a profoundly unsettling reality. At one point, Nix had her laying on his lap, and shockingly, he began to spank her exposed skin. The video bore witness to the red marks left by the repeated blows, a painful sight that persisted for 20 minutes. I mean, what is wrong with these people?
I'm not sure.
Oh, like I said in the beginning, your blood is going to boil. Mine is like, my blood pressure is going to just explode. Louise's emotions ranged from humiliation to fear, a flood of emotions that left her trembling. She must have been overwhelmed with the gnawing sense of uncertainty in her vulnerable state. Perhaps even fearing for her safety, tears streamed down her face, reflecting her anguish as he continued to strike her, the blows relentless and unforgiving. In the midst of this disturbing ordeal, Louise found herself trapped, uncertain of what further torment awaited her. The caller's chilling commands echoed in the room, commanding Walter to subject her to unthinkable acts of vulnerability. His orders took on a more invasive tone, instructing Walter to gauge her breath for the scent of alcohol or drugs, forcing her to kiss him and also to perform oral sex on him. I mean, this went from supposedly she stole money from a customer. What did drugs and alcohol have to do with any of this, for one? And for
why would anybody go along with this? This is just, the whole story is ridiculous.
It is ridiculous. It is absolutely ridiculous. And for him to do, I mean, what the hell was going on in his head? It was, I mean, seriously, dude, do you really think a cop is going to tell you to do those things?
Nope. Not a legit one.
Right. Buddy expressed the profound difficulty he experienced while watching this footage, wrestling with disbelief at the unfolding events. Witnessing the distress that Louise had endured was emotionally taxing for him. He shared how the footage stirred up strong emotions, saying, "Hell, if you can't even feel safe working at McDonald's, we're getting into a pretty sorry world." Subsequently, Walter Nix's actions took a significant toll on the situation. Realizing the gravity of his actions, he left the scene, likely recognizing the severity of his mistakes. So he ran away. Buddy noted at this juncture of the video, it was evident that a felony had occurred. Buddy quickly made a call to multiple felonies. So Buddy quickly made a call to mobilize officers to address the situation. It was apparent that both Walter Nix and the caller shared responsibility for the heinous incident. Buddy emphasized that he was just as much at fault as the caller. In fact, he's more at fault. Just because someone tells you to do something does not mean you have to do it. I mean, don't you remember the whole
right and wrong?
Right and wrong.
I mean,
or your parents would say, if your friend was going to jump off a bridge, would you? I mean,
that's why I say the whole thing is just stupid. I think any judge is probably going to just assume that it's a story made up by a criminal, and because that's what they do. You know?
Yeah.
He made me do it.
Right. And it's CCTV too, so there's no sound. They have no sound in this video. All it is just video, no sound.
Well, I mean, it all starts with the strip searching.
Right.
Boom. Number one. Can't do that.
No.
You can't do that.
You cannot.
We'll just leave it at that.
Right.
I mean, that was the first criminal offense right there.
Right. So after Nix leaves, Donna doesn't know what to do, so she brings in an off-duty custodian. He listens to the caller and immediately realizes something's not right. He questions if the caller is really a cop. He tells Donna this call isn't real, and she starts to think, wait, is this all fake? Everything stops, and they finally figure out it's a hoax. So it takes this off-duty custodian to come in, listen to this guy for a matter of maybe a couple minutes.
That's all it would take
for
most people. I mean...
Right. So they disconnected the call. Buddy was struggling to understand who this caller might be. He had strong doubts that the caller was a real cop, Buddy couldn't wrap his head around how someone could enjoy orchestrating such a twisted scenario over the phone. Clearly, the caller derived satisfaction from the distress he caused by making people obey his orders. Buddy was aware that they needed the victim's statement, so he sat down with her, looking into her eyes, and he had a sudden realization. She was his neighbor. Her father was a friend from his own past. They had grown up together. This revelation hit him hard. As he fought back tears during the documentary interview, he shared that the case became deeply personal, and it fueled up his determination to uncover the responsible person's identity and ensure they faced the ultimate consequences for their actions. Buddy's primary task was to pinpoint the source of the call to crack this case. The caller's detailed knowledge of the events inside of the McDonald's office led Buddy to suspect that the caller was likely nearby. After gathering statements that night, he returned to the parking lot. Cell phones were just becoming popular in those days, and payphones were still commonly used. Buddy was aware of a couple payphones on the front wall of the nearby Winn-Dixie store. He had a gut feeling that one of these payphones might have a direct line of sight to the McDonald's. He theorized that this setup would allow the caller to observe the restaurant and witness the police responding, gauging the success of his prank. Buddy's hunch was that the caller could be a disgruntled employee or someone familiar with Louise. Buddy immediately recognized that finding the culprit in this case would be like searching for a needle in a haystack. He turned to the internet, typing in McDonald's strip search, and like magic, a slew of incidents from various restaurants and retail locations across the nation appeared. Each case followed nearly the same MO, with some even using the same fictitious police officer named Detective Scott. Among the incidents was a McDonald's in Hinesville, Georgia, where an older custodian conducted a body cavity search of a female employee. In Phoenix, Arizona, a Taco Bell manager singled out a customer who matched the caller's description and strip searched her. What authority do you think you have over a customer, you dumbass? Anybody. But I mean, I could see like a young employee complying because they don't know any better, but a customer, I mean, oh my God.
I couldn't even fathom that.
No, I can't
the
either.
The whole thing
but
is ridiculous.
The pattern continued with incidents like the 1995 case in Raleigh, North Carolina, and the 1998 occurrence in Oak Brook, Illinois.
Now I understand why you wanted a drink.
Yes, we needed a drink for this episode. Sometimes we'll have a drink here and there while we're recording, but tonight I was like, yep, we need drinks for this one. So Jeremy's drinking his, what is it called again? The
Dragon
Blood, which is really yummy. We had it when we were at the resort in Orlando. Or Kissimmee, Florida. What is it? It has dragonberry Bacardi, peach schnapps, orange juice, pineapple juice, and strawberry puree.
Yeah, all kinds of goodness.
Yes, and I'm drinking a pineapple Truly. Anyway, getting back to the story, the callers...
Yay!
Yeah. A boo. The callers... reach extended across multiple locations, including Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Buddy expanded his search, contacting establishments such as Taco Bell, Burger King, Hardee's, and Applebee's. It became evident that almost every imaginable type of restaurant had fallen victim to this caller's scheme. As Buddy delved deeper, he realized...
What state is this?
That Buddy is in... Oh my gosh, I think he is in, oh my gosh, was it Kentucky? Kentucky or Alabama, one of the two. I think we touched base on that again.
Both of those.
Well, this was everywhere. everywhere. It became evident that basically almost every restaurant type had fallen victim. As he delved deeper, he realized he had an accumulated information on a staggering 73 cases spanning across 32 states. That's how many times this caller had hit.
Stay in school, people.
Yeah. In 94, the first call came in, and by this time, it was 2004. So 10 years spanned. Buddy had pieced together the timeline. He recalls, "Oh crap, this ain't gonna be a local Winn-Dixie payphone." As the realization hit him, he understood that this situation had extensive implications. All eyes were on Buddy. He knew this would be a defining moment in his career. Recognizing the urgency, Buddy and his team understood that they were dealing with a perpetrator with a decade-long record of audacious acts. This offender seemed to believe that he was untouchable, having evaded capture thus far. 10 years, 32 states, 73 cases that were reported.
Yeah, but I don't even know if I'm as mad at him as I am for the people that followed him,
Right.
because it's just,
They're just as guilty.
none of it makes sense. And that's the only comments I can come up with is, what?
I know.
What?
This
It's utter stupidity.
Yes. I did go a little bit deeper with this because,
Oh, good.
well, no, I went more deeper with psych on this and what could kind of cause people to comply.
Yeah, and I've heard those, theories of
Right.
psychologists.
So I do go into that, and that does make a little bit of sense.
Not really.
Not really, but it, I can understand a little, just a smidge, but I mean, sorry. Use your brain,
use
people.
your brain. I mean,
Yeah, it's, again,
a crime is a crime. Cops commit crimes. Just don't follow them.
Right.
Let them do their
again,
job.
request somebody to come down and
Yeah,
take care of the
let
matter.
them do their
job.
job.
Exactly.
You do your job.
Yeah, you go manage your restaurant, have the cops deal with the employee, and then your hands are clean. Your mind is
for
clean.
one, I mean, would that be considered kind of like impersonating a police officer if you assist a supposed police officer in this stuff?
That's a good question. I'm not
that's
sure.
another thing. It's a crime. It starts with strip searching somebody.
Right.
Because nobody can do that.
Right. No. So the gravity of the situation weighed heavily on Buddy. The thought that a sexual predator was at large filled him with deep concern. He understood that this individual had inflicted trauma on unsuspecting victims, leaving a trail of anxiety and fear. The question haunted him: which establishment would the perpetrator target next? Who would be his next victim? It was evident that this predator had to be stopped, and Buddy was determined to bring this monster to justice. Buddy needed to decipher his distinctive MO to apprehend the culprit effectively. To achieve this, he recognized the significance of probing into the details of the past cases.
This is something multi-state or global. This is not something that he'd probably be able to handle himself. So,
Right.
I mean, he should be on the phone with like the FBI and
Reaching out.
get other sources.
Exactly.
Somebody with more power and pull.
Yep. And he does do that. We're getting to that. He does reach out to some other law enforcement agencies. In 1999, our story shifts to Blackfoot, Idaho, a tightly knit farming community characterized by its conservative values and strong religious presence. Elizabeth, Hoax call number 26, vividly paints a picture of Blackfoot as a place where familiarity and community ties run deep. Feeling secure within this environment was the norm. As Elizabeth describes, the caller displayed a knack for pinpointing specific demographics. His preference was evident. He zeroed in on small towns where trust in authority figures was deeply ingrained. His shrewd approach recognized that the towns often housed young, malleable individuals working in fast food establishments who might be more susceptible to believing someone claiming to be a police officer. Elizabeth's recounting sheds light on the cultural underpinnings that allowed the caller's ruse to take hold. Growing up in this community meant Elizabeth was taught to hold those in position of authority in high regard. Whether they were teachers, church members, or older individuals, her upbringing instilled a sense of respect for these figures. At 16, she seized the opportunity to work at a local pizza place, a significant step towards financial independence. Her excitement was palpable. Earning her own money was empowering. Her dedication was unwavering, and she was known for her loyalty and punctuality, qualities that defined her role as a reliable employee. On December 16th, 1999, she was called to the back office. In a conversation with the manager, she learned he was on a call with Officer Davis from Blackfoot Police Department. During the call, it was conveyed that an incident had occurred earlier that evening involving a woman who had her purse stolen while visiting the establishment. Notably, the purse contained a $50 bill, and the suspicion arose that one of the servers might be responsible for its disappearance. The woman who had been victimized described the server she believed to be the culprit. According to her account, the server was a female employee who stood slightly above 5 feet tall and had blonde hair. Interestingly, she protested that she was neither 5 feet tall nor had blonde hair. She asserted her innocence and refuted the possibility of her involvement. It was noted that the caller, Officer Davis, consistently used rather vague descriptions when referring to the individuals involved. Regardless of the accused party's statements, the officer provided plausible and convincing explanations. The officer wanted clothing removed piece by piece and started with her shoes, then her pants, followed by her uniform shirt. It was the progression of one item at a time with lots of talking in between. The caller loves the slow pace of this and starts off easy to test the waters to see if he can reel the people in. The request gets bigger and bigger, and then it escalates. Elizabeth stated that as this happened, she kept pleading and continued to tell her manager that this was not right. It seemed to anger the officer even more. He asked the manager to describe her body, her breasts, and what her genitalia looked like, and even her bra size. Elizabeth said at that point she grabbed the phone and started screaming at the officer, asking, "How in the world can my bra cup size and all of this stuff have to do anything with the alleged stolen $50 bill?" So at least she had the wherewithal to question.
As she should.
But she was still complying in the same. Even though she was extremely violated and traumatized, she did not feel personally empowered enough to just get the hell out of there. Around that time, her coworker, Derek, 22, came into the restaurant and could tell that something was wrong. When he came in, he saw no wait staff and asked the cook what was happening. It was just the cook, piles of breadsticks and pizzas for days, carry-out orders waiting to be boxed up. It was total chaos. He again asked what was happening, and the cook told him something was happening in the office. He then went to the office and seized the manager. The manager had sweat just pouring off of his body. He sees a young lady getting strip searched. He asks the manager, "What the fuck are you doing?" The manager replied, "There's a cop on the phone and I'm doing a strip search for the police." Derek then grabs the phone and asks, "Who is this?" The caller
I
replies,
think Derek's my fucking hero.
right?
He's the only one with a brain.
Right? So the caller replies that he's an officer with the Blackfoot Police Department. Derek said that he sounded cool, calm, and collected, like this is something that he does every day. Derek told the caller, then you, of all people, should know that this manager should not be strip searching a minor, especially a female. Derek said that he then said, we need to get the real cops here. Then the caller abruptly hung up. Go Derek.
Yes,
I mean,
finally.
A 22-year-old has the freaking wherewithal to know that this is not okay.
Yeah. I mean, common sense.
Right.
He should get a promotion. He should be the boss of everybody right now.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Needed to take another drink because this is batshit crazy.
Yeah.
Elizabeth mentioned that an outsider entered the scene and became genuinely concerned enough to take steps to halt the situation. She expressed deep appreciation for Derek's intervention. On the other hand, Derek expressed the sense of regret, wishing that he could have arrived at the scene earlier. Nonetheless, he took prompt action once he was there. The incident encouraged a strong sense of anger within him, and he found it infuriating that someone would exploit others in such a manner.
Yeah.
Right. Upon realizing that the entire situation was a ruse and the individual had been impersonating a police officer, Elizabeth was overcome with outrage. Derek noted that if he had been asked back in '99 whether the manager was involved, he would have unequivocally answered yes.
And I'd agree.
Yep. However, given the successive revelation that such incidents have occurred in multiple states and numerous times, he now finds it unlikely to attribute the manager's involvement. He has come to the genuine belief that none of the restaurant staff were complicit, believing they were indeed victims of manipulation. But yes, they may be victims of manipulation, but they allowed themselves to be manipulated.
Oh, it's the question of right and wrong.
Right.
I mean, seriously, do you think that's right? Strip searching somebody?
Oh, hell no.
No.
Hell no.
No.
So after the incident, Elizabeth went home and stayed up quite late. She went over the whole event in her mind and she wrote everything down. Elizabeth mentioned that writing everything was challenging because it was about something that personally affected her, and she also found that the police were planning to spend very little time looking into it or following up. It wasn't a primary concern for them. Why the fuck not? Why would it not be a primary concern? This manager sexually exploited this girl.
Yeah.
I have no words. I'm speechless.
It's your story.
I know, but I'm still speechless. I mean, for the love of God.
Yeah.
I need to crack another drink. If I could even open it. I'm so frustrated. In the words of Wine and Crime, nice crack. What's surprising is that this kind of thing happened in different places, and the person doing it was getting away with it. It needed to be clarified whether all of these cases were looked into or not, or if people just didn't report them. This particular case is just bizarre. They had videos showing that the incident did occur, while other police departments only had people's spoken descriptions. As far as Buddy knew, he was the only one trying to figure out what was happening. He had no clue that someone else was also in the same situation. In 2004, in West Bridgewater, Massachusetts, an astonishing phone call scam targeted 4 Wendy's branches in the Boston area, specifically in Abington, Whitman, West Bridgewater, and Wareham. The perpetrator posed as a police officer and deceived managers into carrying out unlawful strip searches on employees. In the most shocking cases, a young female manager was tricked into sexually assaulting a male server. He was asked to spread his arms and legs and she had touched him inappropriately, including his private parts. So it wasn't even just females this guy targeted. He was also targeting males as well. Victor Flattery, a detective sergeant, mentioned that their primary focus was handling drug-related cases. However, due to the ongoing situation, they were shifting their efforts towards locating a prank caller pretending to be a police officer. The origin of the calls remained completely unknown, and no individuals were under suspicion. He expressed his frustration in saying, "I'm unsure how I'll manage to locate the suspect. It's like searching for a needle in a haystack." And I think Buddy said the same thing. So Buddy in Kentucky, he's in Kentucky. I couldn't remember if it was Kentucky or Alabama. So Buddy in Kentucky mentioned having an additional piece of evidence. He possessed the caller ID number obtained through dialing *69. Do you remember *69?
Yep.
That was a big thing when we were growing up. An employee at the restaurant had swiftly dialed *69 after the incident, demonstrating quick thinking. Buddy emphasized that without that number, he would have been dead in the dirt without that phone number. He attempted to call the provided number, but received a busy signal. Despite his persistence in trying that number again and again, the busy signal persisted. His frustration grew because although he had a phone number, it gave him no meaningful information. He recalled that during that time, he lacked substantial assistance. Differing from having a team of 2 or 3 detectives to collaborate with, he had no support and no leads to pursue. In Massachusetts, Victor, we're going to call him Vic from the rest of the story, was also operating with minimal support. He faced challenges in initiating progress on the case due to the limited evidence available. Nevertheless, he was determined to put in every effort to apprehend this culprit. The initial breakthrough in the investigation involved conducting a reverse trace on all 4 locations. Victor acquired several subpoenas authorized by a judge to obtain records related to this. However, the report he received indicated that the numbers were fabricated and led to dead ends. There needs to be more certainty regarding whether these calls were cell phone numbers or landlines. In Kentucky, Buddy contacted AT&T in an attempt to gather information. He went through a series of individuals being transferred from one person to another. After a lengthy 1.5-hour phone call, he finally connected with a woman who suggested that the calls might be linked to one of their prepaid phone cards. This prompted the next course of action, determining the process for tracking a prepaid calling card. Vic also discovered that the calls were linked to a prepaid calling card in Massachusetts. He recollected that the calling cards were commonly used in the past as they provided a convenience and cost savings to people. The hoax calls extended over 90 minutes, so they would have incurred significant expenses. Vic connected with an AT&T employee named Michelle in pursuit of information. He told her that he needed the originated phone numbers associated with these calls. However, Michelle informed him that tracing these numbers wasn't possible. Vic found this response puzzling, as he couldn't comprehend why the originating phone number from the prepaid calling cards could not be traced. At that point, Vic needed clarification about his next steps and how to proceed on with the investigation. Buddy remarked, "You might say I was pursuing a voice through the phone, but in reality, it was just a phone number I was after. I hadn't actually heard the voice itself, so I found myself chasing one dead end after another. It was a sequence of frustration upon frustration." He expressed an unwavering determination, stating that he was willing to invest any number of hours and reach out to anyone necessary. He wasn't aware of the extent of this person's capabilities, but he was confident that this individual was up to no good. Buddy believed that the swift action was imperative. This person needed to be apprehended and brought to justice as quickly as possible. Vic mentioned that most of his current efforts involved making phone calls. He was constantly contacting various agencies and contacting AT&T. He joked that he probably spoke to Michelle from AT&T more often than he talked to his own wife. Their conversations were ongoing as they collaborated to find a way to track down the culprit using the calling cards. He shared with Michelle that the numbers on the calling cards were unique, but she reiterated that tracing them wasn't possible. He inquired about the purpose of the barcode and the other notable numbers on the card, but she didn't have any answers. Vic was persistent, telling her that he would not give up until he had a solution. Then one day, Michelle called him back more optimistically. She excitedly informed him that she had some news. Since the events of 9/11, despite not being widely known, prepaid calling cards have now become traceable. The original number could be tracked down. It was tracked down to Panama City, Florida. Buddy also learned that the calls originated from Panama City, Florida. This revelation surprised him, as Panama City is typically associated with vacations and fun, not criminal activities. Now that they had an actual location, they realized that the issue was that these places were payphones, not regular phone lines. They knew where and when the calls were made from those payphone booths, but they needed further information. It felt like they were starting all over again. Victor contacted the Panama City Police Department and found out they had received many similar calls from others around the area, where someone was faking being a police officer to do strip search pranks. That is a tongue twister. Vic was surprised because he thought it was only happening in their area. He realized the caller must have practiced a lot to know what to say and how to act. Sometimes the calls ended quickly, but gradually they got longer and more convincing. The person on the other end learned to pretend and manipulate the situation like a game. It became like an addiction that they couldn't stop. Vic started doubting if the caller was actually a real police officer. He thought maybe it was someone who wanted to be like a cop and liked having control. This person might have felt really confident about what they were doing. Vic was shocked to find out the caller had a perfect success rate, 4 out of 4 in Massachusetts, 100% success rate that made a significant impact. Elizabeth mentioned that everyone likely thought that they were the only ones targeted and felt embarrassed and foolish about it. However, the realization that many others went through the same situation made her feel less alone and gullible, but at the same time, this widespread occurrence undetermined the sense of justice. She believed that the person responsible needed to be caught and held accountable for what they did. Nobody in the U.S. could confidently claim that their child was safe from this person's actions. It was crucial to locate this caller and prevent more people from becoming victims. Victor was stuck without a clear direction now. He followed the calls and locations, but it led nowhere. He didn't want to give up because things were getting more serious. The next move was to figure out where the calling card was bought. He discovered that they were purchased at a Walmart in Panama City, Florida on February 19th. This was a promising lead since Walmart is a big company and might have video footage. He knew the exact time and date of the purchase. Vic had to talk to several people to get the video. Finally, he found someone who could help him get it. Victor got the footage on VHS tape and played it on a VCR. Unfortunately, it wasn't what he hoped for. The video had been recorded over multiple times, so the quality was terrible. Why all the time do we run into this? I mean, it kind of reminds me of the Katie Poyer.
Yeah, technology.
Yep. It showed different store sections flashing by, jewelry, front door, and other departments in a repetitive cycle. There were no videos of the cash registers, and it was impossible to find anything helpful from this tape. Basically, what he was talking about in the documentary, it was almost like watching a strobe light because it was flashing by so fast.
Yeah.
At this point, it had been 4 months, and he had hit a dead end again. Then he received a call from Buddy Stump. Nothing.
Buddy Stump.
At the Mount Washington Police Department. Vic could tell right away that Buddy wasn't from Boston. Buddy is a genuine Southern guy with a strong accent and all. He mentioned that he had contacted Panama City and found out that there was a guy in Massachusetts with a similar case to his. Buddy then called Victor to share his information. Victor sensed that Buddy was from a smaller police department than his own. Victor thought that his department was small, but Buddy's was even smaller. He was surprised by how much progress Buddy had made and how passionate he was about the case. Buddy was excited that he didn't have to feel alone anymore. He felt that he had someone with the same determination to catch the perpetrator. With this new connection, Victor was enthusiastic about having more information. Buddy asked Victor to help him track the calling card that he had. Victor took the details from Buddy to expedite the process. Buddy's call transformed his mindset from uncertainty about solving the case to a resounding belief that they could indeed solve it. Victor contacted Michelle from AT&T and informed her about the incident that was even worse. Clearly linked to the same person, the calling card used in Mount Washington had been purchased from a different store. Victor's first question to Walmart was about the availability of the register videos, and they confirmed that they had them. A few days later, he received the tape. Knowing that the purchase occurred at 3:02 p.m., he fast-forwarded the tape and saw the suspect entering the frame. The suspect was a white male aged between 30 and 40 and was about 6 feet tall with black hair. He appeared to place something flat on the belt that looked like a calling card. The image quality was clear, and Victor was amazed, exclaiming, "Oh my God, holy cow, we have got him." They had a photo of the suspect and a video of him purchasing the calling card. Victor called Buddy to share the news, and Buddy was ready to kick their efforts into high gear. The only problem was that they couldn't see the suspect's face clearly due to the video angle from above. They returned to the earlier camera tapes that were straight above the entrances and exits to get a better view. After watching the monitors with cameras flashing between different views, suddenly they saw him. The moment Victor saw the suspect walk in, he knew it was him. The suspect wore a jacket and sunglasses, looking like he was getting ready for work or returning home. Then Victor noticed a braid on the side of his pants and was taken aback. The braid was a symbol of law enforcement. The realization struck. He's a cop. Deborah, Hoax call number 67, received a message from her manager to come to the office. The office was very small and intimidating. She had no clue about the situation and felt very small and powerless. Growing up, her family moved a lot and they relocated frequently in her early years. At the time of this incident, she and her twin brother Daniel lived in Statesboro, Georgia. They had moved there when they turned 18 to attend college. Their living situation was a small trailer and they struggled to manage financially. Their income barely covered their expenses and they relied on each other for support. Deborah had a strong desire to be self-sufficient and earn her own money, which led her to take the job at Taco Bell. She began working there when she was only 19 years old. It was a Monday night in November and she was working a long shift. Her manager approached her and said a detective was on the phone. They claimed she matched the description of someone who took a stolen purse from the lobby. She was surprised and shocked because that wasn't something she would do. She was given 2 choices. The manager said that they could send a police officer to perform the strip search, or the manager could do it. She had no idea what a strip search was and felt very unsure. She was very vulnerable and had always followed the rules. They told her to take off her clothes 1 piece at a time. Her manager read the clothing tags to the detective on the phone and put the clothes in a safe. The voice on the phone, who said he was a cop, sounded calm and in control. He made her do exercises to make her sweat. He said that if she was sweating, you can rub the skin and there would be a green residue from the money. He said any hidden money would be visible. The manager touched her all over her body to check for green residue. He checked every part, even her mouth, ears, and private areas. She had to bend over and touch her toes and spread. It felt like there was no place that he didn't touch. She felt very violated, but was scared of getting arrested if she didn't do what they asked. She didn't know how things were supposed to go. So she followed along. In the end, her manager got angry at the detective and said, "Fuck you," and hung up. He threw her clothes at her and left. The call had gone on for hours. Deborah told her brother Daniel about what had happened when she got home that night. She found out later that nobody had actually accused her and the person on the phone wasn't really a detective. After finding out the truth, Deborah couldn't talk about it. She quit her job and left school. She lost her scholarship and couldn't continue. She took a break for a few years. Daniel said that Deborah had always been innocent and cheerful, but this incident pushed her into a very dark place. He still feels guilty that he couldn't do more to help her. Buddy was determined to take the responsibility of solving this case once he learned about more victims. He committed himself to working relentlessly and tirelessly. There were 2 things Buddy never wanted to hear, the words no and don't tell me I can't. The count had reached 73 cases spanning 32 states, with calls continuing to come in daily. All of these calls were traced back to Panama City, Florida. There were calls coming in Fargo, North Dakota. There was calls that were coming in for Taco Bells. There was calls that were coming in for all different locations, and it just kept continuing. Vic spent 4 months handling calls and investigating the case. Finally, after they obtained the picture from the video evidence, this image captured his defining characteristics: his hair color, his height, his build. The presence of the braid on his pants signaled a significant detail. A braid signifies a police officer. With this, Victor journeyed to Panama City, Florida to locate him. Interestingly, 2 of the calls made to the Massachusetts Taco Bell were placed from a Marathon gas station in Panama City. Both calls lasted about 90 minutes and were consecutive. He must have been at the gas station for nearly 3 hours.
Jeez.
Yeah. The phone booth was close to the front door of the gas station, but Vic expected him to choose a more secluded spot away from public view. He believed the caller wanted the power and the control evident by making the calls outdoors with people passing right by him. He aimed to dominate and ensure obedience with his instructions. Vic's assessment was that this person could be a serial sexual predator, posing severe danger and inflicting harm that might never fully come to light. So the guy's got the audacity to stand right outside of a front door on a payphone for 3 hours doing this.
Kind of crazy. The whole story's crazy.
Yes,
So.
it is. They proceeded to the Panama City Police Department to uncover the case's details. The video was shared, but the officers didn't recognize him. Vic had anticipated that if he were a cop, they'd identify him, but to Vic's surprise, he wasn't recognized as a police officer, but as a correctional officer. The shock shifted from thinking he was a cop to realizing he wasn't. The focus narrowed from the entire state of Florida to law enforcement to then specifically to a corrections employee. With this refinement, they were more hopeful about identifying him. Most folks wouldn't easily believe that a caller, even one claiming to be an officer, could instruct them to perform a strip search via phone. But this hoax caller seemed exceptionally skilled at manipulation. He had a way of speaking that never raised suspicion, always staying calm and clear in his instructions. If there was any uncertainty, he would eliminate it by explaining precisely what he wanted. He sounded like someone in authority, so he'd suggest darkening the windows for privacy, making the situation seem more official. He'd provide vague descriptions that fit typical employees, making it easier for them to comply. Though the caller was the true culprit, blame was also directed at others like Donna Summers and her fiancé Walter Nix. While they couldn't locate the caller, it didn't mean that others were free from scrutiny. Walter Nix faced serious charges, and Buddy said they had him dead to rights. Nix pleaded guilty to sex crimes, earning a spot on the sex offenders registry and serving a 5-year prison term. As for Donna, no one coerced her into following the caller's requests. Buddy believed she needed to take responsibility for her role. He expressed that she had to pay the fiddler. Donna entered a plea, but hers was an Elford plea, essentially admitting guilt due to the evidence but maintaining innocence legally. She received a misdemeanor charge and a year of probation. Although she didn't physically go to jail, McDonald's fired her and her reputation suffered greatly. Her face was frequently on the news in connection with the case, likely impacting her further career.
I would assume so.
Yeah. Hire me. I'll strip search your employees. It's perplexing why people would commit criminal actions just because someone on the phone told them to. Many would question why they didn't simply hang up or refuse.
That's what I want to know.
Well, now we're going to get
what
into...
What happened to the McDonald lady's fiance?
He's on the sexual predator list registry, and he also served 5 years, or was sentenced to 5 years. I don't know if he actually served the whole 5 years.
I don't think that's enough.
I don't think so either. But in these sex crime cases, it doesn't seem like anybody ever serves a long sentence. I mean, you look back at all of our other guys, you got Donald Blum, you got the one from Hang Lee, I can't remember his name right now. All of them were reoffenders.
Yeah.
And they only served 3, 4, 5 years at a time, if that. So now we're going to get a little bit into the psychology of listening to people of authority. Dr. Jerry M. Berger, a social psychologist professor.
Did he work at McDonald's?
He could have.
Burger Man.
He had the right name.
The Hamburglar.
The Hamburglar. Oh, I remember though. Was that a cartoon or commercials that had the little
commercials?
Okay.
McDonald's commercials.
The Fry Guy.
Fry Guy. Ronald McDonald.
Yes. There was some other ones too. I can't remember what.
I can't remember any. The Grimace.
Grimace. There you go. They just had a purple shake for him recently, I think. Yeah. So Jerry M. Berger was taken back when he initially encountered the hoax case. He shared most people's common reaction, wondering, how could anyone do that? However, he was reminded of the parallel with the Milgram study. Stanley Milgram sought to understand why individuals often comply with authority figures, even when these authorities command morally wrong actions. Milgram devised experiments on obedience and controlled laboratory settings. 3 roles were at play: the experimenter who ran the study, the actual participant referred to as the teacher, and an actor posing as another participant, the learner. The teacher's task was to administer a basic memory test. If the learner gave an incorrect answer, the teacher was to administer an electric shock. In reality, no shocks were given as the learner was an actor. They would deliberately provide wrong answers. The learner prompted the teacher to deliver increasingly more intense shocks. Astonishingly, 65% of Milgram's participants continued administering what they believed were highly painful, even potentially lethal electric shocks. While pained by their actions, these participants found themselves compelled to pull that shock lever due to the potential influence of the situation. What's most thought-provoking is that this reveals, given the right circumstances, any one of us may find ourselves capable of engaging in an unsettling and uncharacteristic behavior. So when I was watching the videos and stuff on this, I actually went out to YouTube and was looking up this Milgram study. And there was one guy so the guy who's giving the series of words, then the other guy answers it incorrectly, the actor. And when he gives him the shock, he's screaming and he's just like, I can't take it. Don't do this. I don't want to do this anymore. Just agonizing. And the one guy's like, he's done. He can't do it anymore. And the other guy's like, keep going.
Yeah, I've seen this study.
Yeah. And then at the end, they were like, why didn't you stop? And he's like, because you told me I couldn't. He's like, I never told you couldn't.
And again, I don't understand it
Right.
because common sense, I mean, why would somebody do something like that?
I don't know. But he was like, he even got out of his chair at one point. And he's like, I'm not, he's like, I'm done. But it was crazy. The guy just kept hitting the button, or pulling the lever or whatever it was.
Yeah, this whole thing will never make sense to me. I mean, these trials like this will never make sense to me because I just say no.
Right.
What are they gaining from it? Assuming there's a money prize on that.
I'm
right?
not sure. It didn't say.
Zap them 10 times, you get $100 or something, or
If there is, or if there was, it didn't say it in the study.
yeah,
Or
but
in the videos that I watched about the study.
I don't know. It's all weird.
It's very weird. I mean, I could not.
It's probably a bunch of college kids needing money, so they do this thing.
And this was back in, I would say, circa 1950s.
Well, yeah, they do these things all the time.
Maybe, no, it couldn't have been the 50s. Maybe the 60s or the 70s. Yeah. But yeah, no, they do. They do these studies all the time, all these different things. But I could never intentionally hurt another human being.
No, and that's what I mean. I just don't get it. I don't get how anybody could fall for something like that.
Right.
Go past what their beliefs are. Because obviously somebody that's in that study is probably old enough to know right from wrong.
Right.
So you're taught that at a very young age.
Oh, totally. You're totally taught, right from wrong. And obviously some people it didn't stick in their heads. Or maybe they weren't taught. I don't know.
Maybe they just didn't care.
That too.
They found the right niche of people to,
Maybe they went through and interviewed all these different people to try to get
again,
right candidates.
Obviously the younger the person is, probably the easier to manipulate because they haven't really figured out.
Oh, totally. What is it? Isn't it your early 20s that your frontal lobe just finally start?
Yeah, so they say.
So I can't even spit it out. Oh my gosh. The frontal lobe doesn't develop until your early 20s.
Yeah, I'm not sure about all that stuff.
I'm not a doctor.
I knew when I was a young kid that if you shock somebody, it's going to hurt.
Right.
Don't do it.
Right.
So.
And even as a 16, 17-year-old, somebody touching your body is not okay.
No. Never.
Never okay. So in 2003, in Rapid City, South Dakota, Alan shared, so we're going to a different story here. Alan shared that his life drastically changed within a few hours, going from assisting someone to facing potential life imprisonment due to a single phone call. He admitted his gullibility and his trust in authority, which led him to believe the caller was a police officer needing help. Randall Conley, Alan's attorney, recalled meeting him in the jail, learning about the imposter posing as a police officer and manipulating him into committing serious crimes. He was facing charges such as rape and kidnapping. So this is on the other side of the coin. They're interviewing somebody who listened to the officer, or alleged officer. Although charged with several offenses, Alan didn't fit the profile of a rapist or kidnapper in his attorney's perspective. Determined, Randall took on the case. Alan revealed that he was in his early 50s when he started working as an assistant manager at Hardee's. Just as his shift was coming to an end, a call came in. The call claiming to be from a Rapid City Police Department. He informed Alan about an employee allegedly stealing from a customer. Alan's shock at the accusation prompted him to listen. The caller presented two options to the employee: face a strip search at the police station or at Hardee's. She chose the latter. During the call, the caller instructed Alan step by step, directing him to have her remove each item of clothing and check for hidden money. The caller's precision and demand were evident. The ordeal lasted around 2.5 to 3 hours. The caller even made her do jumping jacks to ensure compliance. Alan felt trapped, unable to refuse. The situation escalated from checking for money to searching her for drugs, even involving intimate areas. Alan kept telling him he did not want to be any part of this, but he felt he had no choice. Alan said that he found no money and thought they should be done. His assistant manager's arrival interrupted the call. The shock of his actions overwhelmed him. The next day, he was charged with 3 felonies, 2 counts of kidnapping, and 1 charge of second-degree rape. In this case, Alan's lawyer saw him as an early victim, manipulated and coerced. A critical aspect was that the office had a camera recording the entire event. Despite his actions, Alan decided not to hide anything, knowing that documenting the incident was essential. The jury found him not guilty, considering the evidence. Alan's life was upended. Relationships fell apart. Friends distanced themselves. He felt deep remorse and wanted the young lady to know that he was profoundly sorry. This incident cast a lasting shadow over him. The caller escaped justice, leaving Alan to face the consequences alone, as the police focused on him rather than pursuing the real culprit. And that's one thing that's very frustrating in this case, too. They're going after these people that are doing this, which they should.
Yeah, I mean,
he's lucky he had a good lawyer.
Depending on what they're doing, how far do they go? Do they go all the way? Yeah, I mean, they should be.
A lot of these police departments are not pursuing the caller at all, which is insane to me.
It is insane, yeah.
But they have somebody right there they can charge, but they don't want to take the time to try to investigate this caller.
I mean, you guys tell us, what do you think? Do you think they should be charged as well? Do you think that they should know better than this?
Right from wrong.
Right from wrong? Let us know in the comments below.
Definitely let us know your thoughts. Now we jump back to 2004, where Vic is in Panama City on the trail of the caller who they believe works at a jail. In the area, there are 3 jails. They visited the first jail without finding any answers. Then at the second jail, the warden and head of security review the footage and confirm that the man on the screen is David Stewart. The missing piece falls into place finally. David Stewart is at work when they arrive to talk to him. The warden brings him into the office. Stewart seems perplexed about their visit. In just 30 seconds, he's visibly uneasy. Vic tells them that they know about his hoax calls to Massachusetts and other places across the U.S. This makes Stewart tremble and sweat. He asks the question, was anyone hurt? He also states that he is relieved it's over. Vic feels certain that they've got their guy. They mention having him on a video purchasing calling cards, but Stewart denies making calls or buying the cards. He invokes his right to remain silent. The interview ends abruptly. The investigation hangs on by a thread. Vic needs a confession, and he did not get one. The Panama City Police Department returned to get a search warrant for Stewart's house. His residence is in a small town named Fountain, characterized by dirt roads and mobile homes. It's a quiet place where people value their privacy. Stewart's trailer sits deep in the woods, accompanied by a small shed. He's unaware of the impending search. The detectives scour the property, uncovering police magazines, applications for various police jobs, and diaries indicating his involvement as a part-time police officer. His obsession with law enforcement becomes apparent. Amid this trove of information, they find a prepaid calling card, a potential smoking gun. Convincing the DA to charge him is Victor's next challenge. The DA hesitates, unsure if Stewart can be convicted of a sex crime when he wasn't physically present during the hoax calls. But I understand their thought process there, but he was initiating. He was the one telling them what to do. That's a sex crime, whether you're there or not.
Yeah.
This situation baffles Vic. After a decade of calls, we finally found the suspect, yet no one wants to charge him. Vic shares this with Buddy in Mount Washington. Buddy, frustrated, questions if Stewart is in jail. Vic admits that they don't have enough to charge him yet. Buddy, determined, insists that they cannot let him slip away. He argues with the county and Commonwealth attorneys and a district judge and secures a warrant. He's fueled by the 3 months of hard work invested in this case. He then calls and tells his wife to pack his bags because he's heading to Panama City, Florida. Buddy is resolute. Stewart won't escape justice, not after all the suffering he's caused. In Buddy's mind, what could possibly go wrong? Now we meet Stephen Romines, David Stewart's attorney. He firmly believes that police often think their case is a sure win, yet the reality is usually quite different. He's confident that his client is innocent, saying, "I know for a fact he's not guilty." Buddy noted that all the signs pointed to Stewart as the hoax caller. During their drive back to Kentucky, their conversation was tense, but then lightened a little bit, chatting about general topics. Stewart had been working as a correction officer in Panama City, following a stint delivering propane for MS carriers. He seemed like an average guy, well-liked by his colleagues. Vince was taken back by Stewart. He was not at all what they were expecting. Contrary to his assumptions, Stewart was married and had children. He wasn't a solitary figure Vince had thought or imagined, secretly perfecting his craft. Perhaps he would tell his wife he was working late, or on days off, he would tell her that he was really up to something else. Buddy contemplated whether Stewart had dual personalities unknown to his family. Buddy speculated that Stewart's intense desire was to be a police officer, even more so than anything else in life. He attended the academy and had a fixation on wielding authority and power over others. Buddy got the impression that Stewart believed he was one of them. As they neared Kentucky, the gravity of the situation seemed to sink in for Stewart. Arrested and incarcerated, Buddy's internal monologue taunted him. "How does it feel now?" he thought. "Thought you could escape, but now you're alone, miles from home. How's that sit with you?" Stewart faced serious charges, solicitation of sodomy, and imitating a police officer. Buddy found solace in his arrest, knowing that no more victims would be ensnarled by him. For Vic, having an alleged perpetrator in custody awaiting trial was a tremendous relief. In jail, Stewart secured a prominent defense attorney, Stephen Romines. Romines, with 3 decades of experience, found this case very unique. Stewart's brother contacted him to take the case, and Romines initially suspected a prank due to the alleged phone-related incidences. Assaulting someone over the phone seemed implausible to him as it contradicted the statute. Stewart's bail was initially set at an astounding $500,000, a reaction to the concern that he might flee due to his distant location. Romines fought to lower it, ultimately achieving a more affordable sum of $100,000. The next thing Buddy knows is that he was bailed out of jail. Buddy was upset that he was out, but he said, "That's okay. Enjoy your last walk because we'll meet again." Deborah of Statesboro, Georgia, remained unaware of others experiencing similar incidences at the time. Though the Taco Bell manager was fired, she was not officially charged with anything, as far as she knows. Since Taco Bell was a franchise, she sued the franchise and her manager. Their immediate concern was avoiding a lawsuit, showing little regard for her well-being. They were prepared to paint her as complicit in what had transpired. Her lawyer warned her that they might attack her character and even tried to address her therapy session notes for the case. Her brother thinks that this tactic aimed to dissuade her from testifying, thereby undermining the case. The judge and the opposing attorneys seemed to shift blame onto her during the proceedings. The case was eventually dismissed, partially because Deborah declined to testify or answer specific questions. Reliving the details in a room full of strangers felt embarrassing and overwhelming. She lacked the willingness and the ability to endure it all. The judge stated that the court should not be employed to promote a culture of victimhood or entitlement, which undermines the principles of individual responsibility and hard work on which a nation was founded. The harshest lesson often comes at a high cost. Hopefully, the plaintiff has learned to think independently, though it came at a great expense. Essentially, the message was, shame on you. Hopefully, you've learned something. So she sued them, but when it came down to it, she couldn't bring herself to testify. I mean, what happened to her may not have been intercourse rape, but she was sexually violated.
Yeah.
And she's suffering horribly from this. And basically, the judge says, shame on you. Hopefully you've learned something. I'm like, come on. Months later, she learned that the caller was a prison guard in Florida, but that her brother reflects that when justice isn't served, when a police and the DA take no action, it feels like there's no effort to prevent such incidences from reoccurring. And that's precisely what transpired. The flawed system leaves many individuals without any semblance of justice. In 2007, the criminal trial of Stewart dominated conversations, but the actual culpability extended beyond just the hoax caller. While his actions were deeply distressing, the restaurants themselves bear a degree of responsibility for allowing this phenomenon to persist. Determined for justice, Louise, she was the one in the beginning of the story, embarked on a mission to hold McDonald's accountable. She yearned for an acknowledgement of their role in the unfolding tragedy, and she wanted a simple apology for the upheaval of her life that she had endured. Her aspirations marked a potentially groundbreaking moment, being the first hoax victim to make it to trial. Louise enlisted attorney Ann Oldfather to represent her in a monumental $200 million lawsuit against McDonald's. Good for her.
Yeah.
Renowned for her formidable legal...
Whether or not she gets it, though.
Right. We'll get to that. Renowned for her formidable legal prowess, Anne embarked on what would become Bullitt County's most prominent civil case. This legal battle turned intensely heated as one of McDonald's hired private detectives faced arrest for impersonating an officer while serving a subpoena to one of Louise's friends.
They sent in Ronald McDonald.
Wearing a cop suit.
Sent in the big guns.
Charges were hurled that McDonald's was tampering with witnesses, fostering an environment of intimidation. A sense of victim blaming emanated from McDonald's camp, with its attempts to pry into Louise's therapy notes and MySpace account. Leave people's therapy notes alone. She wouldn't have needed therapy if you had done your job and notified all of your managers that this shit was going on for 10 years. If you get a call that says something like this, hang up on them, report it.
Yeah, don't buy it. Don't believe it.
Exactly.
It's all bullshit.
I mean, if any one of these fast food chains had just done their due diligence and notified their employees, their managers, sent out put it up on the bulletin board, something.
Better yet, keep them on the phone. Pretend like you're playing around. Call the cops. Get them over there to investigate it.
There you go. That's even better.
Catch them quicker.
So their approach seemed aimed at pointing fingers at everyone except themselves. Although McDonald's claimed to have limited information on the prior hoaxes, Anne Oldfather remained skeptical. She delved into the matter, revealing the extensive history of similar incidences McDonald's was privy to for years. Louise's case centered on the notion that McDonald's had encountered numerous hoax callers. Did they sufficiently warn their employees about this danger? According to their argument, they had not. Before the trial commenced, Oldfather relentlessly demanded documents pertaining to the previous hoaxes from McDonald's. Although McDonald's acknowledged settling 6 similar cases, Oldfather suspected more. She eventually obtained a court order from the trial judge, pressuring McDonald's to disclose all relevant information. Mere hours before the trial's initiation, McDonald's presented Oldfather with massive documentation, leaving her with minimal time for review. These materials revealed over 24 illegal strip search incidences nationwide across McDonald's restaurants, demonstrating that the company knew that there was an issue. Throughout the trial, McDonald's aimed to insinuate that Louise was part of the hoax and merely seeking financial gain. They basically were saying that she was in on it to get money. The only thing she wanted was money, so she collaborated this plan with the other people to be able to get money.
Crazy.
Yeah. They presented Tom, the individual who had ended the call, the custodian at the time, as an eyewitness, suggesting that she was pursuing money from the onset. However, Oldfather managed to dismantle this testimony, although the true sentiments of the jury remained uncertain. Louise's public appearance shed light on the fact that this was not a victimless crime. She symbolized the potential vulnerability of any person, and it struck a chord with many. And an important pretrial decision allowed the jury to witness the full assault video, which was a harrowing 3 hours long. The courtroom was silent, punctuated only by the sound of jurors in tears. Oldfather and Louise alleged false imprisonment, although McDonald's countered and said she was not physically restrained and had moments of alone time. They suggested that she could have left that office at any time. They even questioned her on whether she tried the door or not. Louise responded that she hadn't because she believed escape was impossible. Yeah, she was butt-ass naked and all she had was a goddamn apron that didn't even cover her whole body. How is she supposed to escape out of there? They locked all of her clothes and her belongings in her car.
I mean, I guess I wondered that too, why didn't these people just walk out or whatever, I mean, it ain't like there's an actual cop there.
Right. But if you're all of your anything to cover yourself is, I mean, I wouldn't walk out of an office naked
Well,
into a bustling McDonald's restaurant.
would it be better to walk out naked or keep going through
See, I guess I would not be in that situation. I would not have allowed it.
Yeah.
But
exactly. You wouldn't have gotten any my clothes off.
no. Throughout the trial, McDonald's attempted to shift the blame onto Donna Summers, the manager, and Louise herself. The reality, however, is that McDonald's should have cautioned their employees. Ultimately, Louise Osborne was awarded $6 million, winning her case. So she didn't get the $200 million. She got $6 million.
That's better than nothing.
Right. And I should go back. I'm not saying that these women or any of these women or men that had this happen to them are at fault at all. And, I'm just saying that I would not have allowed it to happen to myself. But, they're my mind frames. They're,
it's kind of the same thing. I mean, this cop calls in. You got these managers and stuff committing these acts on these people.
Right.
And then you got these people that are just letting it happen.
Right.
Where everybody in that room should take a step back and think, what the hell is going on here?
Right. Look at the situation.
This don't make sense.
Right. Yeah. So I just wanted to clear that up. I'm not, saying that these people were.
No, I mean,
Yeah.
they're victims.
They are totally victims.
I mean, even the people that perpetrated in some ways are victims.
They're victims, but yet they're perpetrators.
They're
in the
perpetrators.
Same. Yeah.
They went along with it.
So the responsibility lay with McDonald's for failing to safeguard their employees, making them the true villains if their motives prioritize profit over their staff's well-being. It was astonishing to learn how widespread the issue was across numerous fast food establishments and how many settlements had occurred without public awareness. This problem extended beyond McDonald's, hinting at a determined effort to keep it hidden. The criminal trial began in October 2006, creating quite a buzz in Bullitt County. News crews from across the country followed the story of a girl who had been sexually assaulted at McDonald's due to a hoax caller. People were eager to learn about David Stewart, his life, his family, his career, his character. Stewart, a husband and a father of 5, was well liked in his community. His lawyer, Romans, entered the scene with a theatrical flair, a common occurrence with attorneys. Buddy, however, remained confident that no amount of theatrics could undermine their strong case, as every police officer he spoke to attested that their evidence was top-notch. Stewart's lawyer claimed that the police often presented cases as slam dunks, skewed their versions of events for the media. This sentiment gained traction, especially considering the recent events like the social justice protests and the high-profile cases involving George Floyd and Breonna Taylor. The police narrative often deviate from reality. Victor recounted their evidence against Stewart. His appearance at the Walmart where the Massachusetts cards were bought, and identification from the jail warden where he worked. This evidence, they believed, was solid enough for a conviction. The Walmart video depicting Stewart in a CCA security-like uniform was seen as irrefutable proof of guilt. Despite this, Romans argue that the evidence was insufficient. They scrutinized Stewart's work schedule and found that he was available to make calls whenever they were placed. However, some calls he had alibis for that they couldn't challenge. His wife's testimony supported his alibi, as she had a consistent work schedule, and Stewart was responsible for picking up their children. Well, we ran into this with Donald Blum, too. His wife said he was home, and she knew that because he made coffee at 9 a.m. in the morning or whatever, but then she lied. Who's saying this woman's not lying?
Nothing.
Vic stressed that if it wasn't Stewart, who else could it be? The facts and evidence all pointed towards him. Romines countered the prosecution's portrayal of Stewart as a mastermind manipulator who could convince people to do things over the phone that they wouldn't normally do. He emphasized that this narrative contradicted Stewart's lifelong character, a family man, a hard worker, and the brother of a police officer. After 2 hours of deliberation, the jury returned with a verdict of...
Let me guess. Not guilty.
Yep.
God.
Can you believe it?
No.
Was it your uncle that was here that night when I was watching this?
I don't know.
I just remember somebody was here and I threw my headphones off and I was like, you can't believe it. And I just started screaming. I just hit my mic. I was so mad. But yeah, not guilty of solicitation to commit first-degree sexual abuse. For Buddy, it was like a blow, his heart sinking. Vic felt numb and stunned. It was Buddy's first non-guilty verdict, and despite their strong case, there was nothing he could do to change it. The outcome left people perplexed. Despite the hundreds of calls, only 8 individuals were charged, all of them managers and not the actual caller. So out of the 70-some cases, only 8 people were charged. Total. People questioned whether all the cases were adequately investigated or if reporting was suppressed out of fear. Since 2004, these hoax calls have ceased, leaving the question, who was the evil predator behind them? Though justice wasn't served to the caller, the calls eventually stopped, leaving society wondering if they were truly gone for good. So they stopped after this whole trial and everything.
Yeah, weird.
Too. Isn't it?
So basically, it's probably just a matter of time before the guy gets the itch again.
Oh, definitely.
Does it again.
Tries to figure out a different way of doing it.
Well, he would have to because
The
now
technology
they're
now.
going to know.
Yeah.
You know, they'll bust him right away. I mean, I'm sure they're probably still watching this dude, just waiting for him to mess up.
Right. And it could be around that time, too, because that's when, payphones started going away. Cell phones were becoming more prominent.
Yeah, but, I mean, that ain't going to stop him because, they have those proxy phone numbers now.
Well, and don't they have what do they call them? Burner phones.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's ways of doing it,
But, yeah.
But
this asshole, alleged asshole.
Well, he's a definite asshole. I mean, we could say that.
He got
he fits the bill to a T.
He was seen purchasing the calling cards.
Yeah. And he's got a brother that's
a police officer. Yep. And he couldn't.
He's probably feeling inadequate because he didn't make the cut.
Right. He didn't pass the.
Because obviously, when he was trying, his domineering ways kind of alerted them. And
I'm
like,
sure.
No.
I'm sure it had something to do with his psych test or something.
Yeah, definitely.
But isn't that just the most fucked up story?
Yeah, I would like to never, ever hear that one again.
Okay.
I mean, because it just, there's no winners in it.
No, there's
and
not.
It makes people look like they're complete idiots. Because I couldn't fathom anybody going along with anything that happened.
Right. And I'm sure this is probably going to be a super long episode. And I'm sorry.
There's a thing, where like, okay, you get a call. Supposedly it's a cop. The cop wants you to ask the person a couple questions. Cool, whatever. But the second it starts to go, well, have them take their shirt off. Ding, 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 ding.
Well,
red flags.
So even put it in this situation. Let's say you receive a phone call at home. Somebody claiming to be a police officer, and they're telling you that you need to break into your neighbor's house for something.
That's when you laugh and then hang up the phone.
So why in the scenario of it being in a restaurant or in a fast food place and it being somebody had money taken from them or whatever, I mean, why in that scenario did all these people fall for it?
Exactly. Because why would a random cop call in to your establishment saying that there was a customer of yours that just stole $50? Okay. Wouldn't it be the manager calling the police to report that something was stolen or
Right.
something happened? No, it's just a random cop calling and saying, yeah, one of your patrons just stole $50.
One of your employees stole $50 from one of your...
Employee, whatever.
Well, they did have somebody that was a patron.
Yeah. Well,
Which-
I don't remember what that one was, but
Same scenario. It was the manager did a strip search on the customer.
right. Yeah.
What
I
the
mean-
fuck authority do you... I mean, you wouldn't have authority...
Customer or
Right.
employee, it's wrong.
Right. But I had never heard this story at
And
all.
Never want to hear it again.
And I got sucked in on the first, I think it was like, I don't even remember how many episodes the documentary was. And I couldn't turn back. I'm sorry. This was something that I had to share.
Well,
And that's, I know true crime sucks, but I'll try to do something more fun next time. I promise.
I get that you have to tell it, but it's one of those stories that just makes people look dumb.
Yeah.
Just believing in that.
Yeah. It's, well, and then look at all the things that they have out there right now that you get all these warnings on. Like, there's sex traffickers that are putting like fake $100 bills under windshield wipers. They know like that. Well, first off, they'll mark a vehicle if it's a single woman, and they'll somehow mark your vehicle with something. There's all sorts of different things. But the other thing they're doing is they're taking and putting a fake $100 bill underneath your windshield wiper. So you get out of your car to grab that $100 bill that's under your wiper, and then they snatch them up then. It's just all these crazy things that, you just have to use your common sense. I mean, why would somebody put a $100 bill underneath your windshield wiper? They wouldn't.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I could see that more than this case,
Oh, totally. Totally. But, well, that is my depressing and super sad, sucky story for this week.
It was fantastic, let me tell you. I'm excited.
Do we have any news or any updates to share?
I don't think so. I think we got those out of the way at the beginning, so.
I think we did too. Well,
All right.
thanks again to Daryl, Johnny, Drips, Drops, and the Sarahs with the H's for collaborating with us this week. We look forward to getting to know you guys more and we got some crossover episodes coming in the future. And that's all we have, guys.
Hoorah.
Goodbye.
Later.
We love you.
Bye. Thanks for hanging out with us here at Total Conundrum. Please make sure to check out our website and blog at TotalConundrum.com for news, upcoming events, merch, bloopers, and additional hysteria. You never know what will pop up, so be sure to follow along. If you want to show your support for Total Conundrum and gain access to all of our bonus content, please visit our Patreon page. You can also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. The links are available in our show notes. If you have any questions, comments, recommendations, or stories to share, please email us at contact@TotalConundrum.com. Episodes are available on Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. If you like the show, please rate, review, and subscribe on Apple Podcasts. We appreciate the love. Keep on creeping on, mother cluckers.